Welcome to the new season of the Live Your Spa Life show. The Spa in Spa Life stands for Seek Power Always, that divine power within you to do what you're here to do. The theme for this season is Freedom Fighter. Amazing people like you share ways to ensure your freedom, physically, financially, spiritually, and in your relationships to create a world-class life. In these times of uncertainty, it's time for you to move past the distractions and start trusting yourself more through your God-given knowingness. No one truly knows better what's best for you than you. In this season, you'll have plenty of examples of people choosing their best life and giving a voice of freedom to those who are also looking to have their best life. Thank you for sharing your precious time with us and being part of the Live Your Spa Life conversation. With us here today is Heidi-Marie Ferren. Heidi is a writer, actress, vocalist who is also the last and longest reigning Miss USO, performing and speaking across the globe in over 1,000 venues and before 4 U.S. presidents. As a vocalist, Heidi's credits include performances with Taylor Swift, Patti LaBelle, and Lee Greenwood. She is currently preparing for her latest speaking series and book, America's Sweetheart, based on her life and work with service members. As a former foster youth and survivor of homelessness and incest, Heidi has passionately dedicated herself to helping young people use their story for good. She is currently a court-appointed advocate for foster children, and part of her story was recently featured in the book Brave in Real Life to support Brave Global in their fight to end the exploitation of young people. Heidi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here. Thanks very much.
Oh, you got it. And for those who are watching, I know for those of you who aren't listening, but I just want to say it out loud. I'm actually going to hold up the book, Brave in Real Life, which Heidi is a featured author in here. And I want to kind of jump in with this because this book, people who listen to this show, they know that we have a lot of survivors on the show. We really want to bring awareness that it happens all across the board in many different ways. And these stories are about, women who have overcome the sexual exploitation. So I would love for you, one, to share your chapter, which I just thought was so great. The chapter head of it is Stickers Only Stick When You Let Them. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about why you chose that as the title of your chapter and a little bit about your journey in this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Actually, Guy, who put the entire book together, he pulled that out because that's from one of my favorite books. It's actually a kid's book, but I'm a kid at heart. I found the book as an adult, but it's about these little wemmicks who every time if someone is beautiful, they get a gold star, and if someone has, they're not what the community thinks of as beautiful, they get a red dot. And that story meant a lot to me because at the end, not to ruin it for anyone, you should read the book, it's really great. But the woodmaker on the hill, this Wemmick finds a little girl that the stickers don't stick to. And she says it's because it's gonna make me cry. It's because the maker on the hill says that he has the final say, that those words don't matter. And I think that story factored a lot into me because I actually talked about this for an incredible group of women who are all survivors of trauma, specifically in the Middle East. And just this idea of your story can be your superpower and not your marking. And I always think of, when someone walks into a room, part of kind of our survival mode is to start labeling things. It's a survival mechanism. We start saying, oh, this person's this, that, and the other, and it can become judgmental, or, oh, that person's never had anything bad happen to them. They've had an easy life. But I think that is robs us of our greatest strength, which is in lifting each other up and in finding community. And I think that realizing that those labels aren't us is something that really impacted me because I had a lot of labels starting at a really young age, a
Right.
lot of labels,
Right.
and a lot of things that said I shouldn't, I should be a lot of different things right now. I should be a drug addict. I should be not functioning. There are a lot of things that were against me at the beginning. And if I had listened to the things people told me, I never would have done anything that I've been so fortunate to do.
Right. Well, and one of the things that I think we're seeing as more awareness is getting out there is that everyone's story is their story. And you talk about, trauma is trauma. It's not about comparing it to other people's trauma. It's about it's what it taught you. It's what your own experiences are, and it's from that place that only that person can share, what it meant to them, what they're going to do with it. And I'm seeing a lot more of the survivors talking in terms of not being a victim, right? And that's one of the things with this, particularly with this podcast, when we say, spa life, the SPA is seek power always, right? That power within you, that God-given power, that intuition, all those things that we have to overcome things in our life. And so, one of the things that you talked about is that if you identify as a victim, that it takes your power away. And we want to be able to be the warriors we're here to be, to stand in that power and to really make our mark in the world. You've talked about how, you had a life where you were silenced a lot, and just a lot of the challenges that you had with, your father, and just, being in the foster care system. How is it that you are utilizing your experience? Because now, as an advocate, what are you telling young children that are part of the foster care system?
Uh, that what's happening now is not a sentence on your life. That this is part of your story. It is not your whole story. And for me, so uh, I as a child overcome homelessness, incest, molestation, abuse, and it didn't stop just with my biological father. And after the worst, kind of one of the worst incidences of abuse from him, I was taken and put into foster care, where I was also abused. And I got to tell you, that's one. That is one time it's the aloneness that you feel as a 4-year-old, taken from the only sense of security that you've ever had, which would be my mother. My mom was my world and the only place I felt safe. And it was really hard and awful. But I know I never felt alone. There was always I had my mom didn't kind of force religion on me, but we were always in church, and I had a close personal relationship with Jesus when I was, and I had to, and I know that's how I got through. That's how I made it through foster care, and I never stopped fighting because I knew that wasn't the end, and whatever it took, I didn't care what anybody said. I was going to keep fighting, and I try to instill that as well in young people that I meet that are in the midst of something that feels hopeless.
Right.
It is never hopeless, because at the end of that, there's so much more. And I know, even in my work with service members, I I was terrified. I was terrified on the performance element. And I had been performing my whole life, but I had so much performance anxiety going into those rehearsals. But I learned through that all of these experiences, all of these, all of the trauma that they actually were part of what made me available, and made me able to make a difference in the lives of others, because my heart knew what it was to feel alone. My heart knows what it is to be terrified, and to not give up, and I try to pass that on to other people.
Right. One of the things that I know listeners and myself as well want to be able to reach out and help this community, right? That it's so prolific in so many ways. And I feel like sometimes it's getting harder and harder to vet where to give your energies, because, in case in point, you talk about where you're supposed to go to this foster care, which is supposed to then protect you. And then there's a re-victimization. And that's not just an isolated incident with you. This is across the board. And a lot of these facilities are facades for human trafficking, for
Yeah.
further abuse, for further things. Is there a way that you have found that people can vet and know where can you put your time and resources locally to be able to help people?
Absolutely. Well, I was very fortunate to link up with Brave Global. My amazing sister friend Danielle Mater actually introduced me to Miley with Brave, and they are doing such incredible things. Not only are they pouring into the lives of young people who have experienced exploitation and who are going through the foster care system, they empower them because, you know, at a certain age, you're out of the system and you don't have a lot of tools and support to build your life from the ground up sometimes. So they have educational opportunities and other ways to fortify and pour into the lives of young people so that they know, not, you've got people praying for you, you've got people believing in you, and this is the beginning for you. This is not a sentence. And then also as a CASA, like, I was so scared to do a lot of the point of fear is to push through to the other side where there is victory. And I as a CASA, I knew how much work it would be. But I had a moment where I was sitting there because I didn't have a CASA, which is a court-appointed advocate for foster youth, and I know if I had had a CASA, it would have made all the difference. I was beaten by my foster family and starved, and it was awful. But if I didn't have a really incredible social worker, that one person, um, I don't know what would have happened. It was really, really rough. I didn't have somebody looking out for me, but that's what a CASA is. It's a volunteer position who is only there to advocate for the youth, to be that voice, because children, for myself, when I was in the system, they were trying to say that a 4-year-old couldn't possibly remember everything that had happened, that she's just a kid. And so I had to testify against my biological father. And on the stand, I told the story beginning to end of Snow White and verbatim. And it was that story that it proved that a 4-year-old not only can remember, but does remember. And then that story allowed me to go home to my mom. And that's why I think stories are so important. I mean, there's a reason that the Bible, that Jesus used parables. That's the quickest way to a heart. It changes people, minds, hearts faster than legislation or anything else, to talk to somebody's heart in that way.
Right. So speaking of that, first of all, how is it that you came into, being with the USO, and, you have lots of stories of sitting at the bedside of men and women in service being pulled from the field. And, that can be a very low and depressing state, especially if you've been injured. Um, Share some of the stories that you've had in working with them, and how you came into that position, and how is it that you're now the last?
Well, I don't irreplaceable. No, I,
I'll go with that.
um, well, I had kind of had my eye on the USO, like, growing up, and I had come from a long line of service members. Actually, I didn't realize this, but my biological father, who I'm not in contact with, but he was adopted, and so my biological grandmother enlisted in the army in World War II, and I to come from, even not knowing her, it felt like I was part of a legacy. But on my mother's side, we have family members that have served all the way to the revolution. So I was excited to serve in that way, but I think I'm going back to, this is how I became in a part of the USO. My mom as I was growing up, we would perform in, nursing homes and veterans hospitals. And when I got to New York and I auditioned, I got the call as I was crossing the street to perform with them. And I hesitated. I thought, oh no, what am I doing? I'm supposed to be a serious actor. All my friends were like, you can't do that. But then I sat after hours of messages from my mother saying, are you kidding me? What this? I've prayed about it, Heidi. And I thought, oh my goodness, Heidi, you have literally been preparing your whole life to do this. And then I thought of my dear friend, his name's Aaron Menken, and we'd grown up together and rode the school bus together. And I would bake really terrible cookies and send them to his unit. And we were just really good friends. And he hit a improvised device in just outside of Kandahar, and he had 3rd-degree burns over 3/4 of his body. And I remember the day I felt it when it happened. And he's had hundreds of surgeries and he's an advocate in his own right. And I knew that when it happened, I said, this horrible thing that has happened, Aaron is the kind of person that will take this and make the world a better place, not in spite of it, but because of it. And I thought, I may not be able to see him to because he was in San Antonio. And I said, but I want to do this for people like Aaron. I want to be able to make them have a lighter burden on their shoulders, to be able to forget what they're walking into. And because of the USO, I was actually able to reunite with him again. We were both on the Intrepid, and he was there introducing Bill Clinton, because we're both from Arkansas, and I was there for the anthem. And it's so wonderful to have him back in my life. He's such an amazing human being, and he is an example of everyone I met. Coming from, at that time too, a lot of I think there's a lot of conversation about, conflicts we should be involved in or not involved in. These men and women they put their lives on the line so that we don't have to, and they walk into the face of danger. There's fear, but they do it anyway, and they do it for the greater good. And I can't be more grateful. And I remember in Walter Reed, there was a man who had literally been pulled off of the field literally the night before. He was missing both of his legs and an arm, and his father and brother were there, and they were laughing hysterically when we went in. And I could feel how hard he was working to make them feel happy. And I had a moment in the room where there's that moment where, the tears come and your heart is aching. But I hit myself right then and thought, no, that is not my job, is to make his job easier. My job is to come in here and make sure that he gets to rest, that he doesn't have to make everybody happy. He can chill out. And guess what? He's alive. He's alive. And it's wonderful. And just story after story. There was a Battle of the Bulge event, which is, gosh, one of my most, I tell stories all day. I don't want to just rattle on.
No, I think it's great. I think one of the things and this is where I think it's important for people to start engaging with their discernment, right? Because, we can really start discerning where people's heart is at, because let's just say an organization overall is maybe corrupt, right? Or maybe has not good, thoughts. And you can go all the way up, whether, you're talking about a president, you're talking about an organization, any of those type of things, that we don't want to just blanketly think that they are here for good, right? It's their actions. It's what they are doing and what that looks like. And even though an organization may be flawed with a lot of different things, there's almost always people within there that their intention is pure and their intention is good. And those are the people that we want to, edify. Those are the people we want to band together with. That's where you start looking at what are ways that we can share and help and edify those people, so that not only their stories can be held, but that the people who were in situations that they thought they were going to be protected, but those institutions and those things actually harm them further. And
Yeah.
so this is where we have to kind of, peel the onion back and start looking at, okay, what's the totality here? And be able to start doing things person to person and really start seeing how we can support each other. And I know that there's a lot of confusion and despair and fear. And that's one of the things is that, you've been in, you've overcome so many different things. How are some of the ways that you overcome fear?
Um, well, for prayer, I pray a lot. That's the first thing, the first go-to for me. And I mean, I feel like I'm in a constant conversation. Um, and I know that that's gotten me through a lot. And also, I've always wanted to be a person that had facility with like Bible verses. I have like my friend Danielle, she can speak that word, and I've been working toward that, but I do have, ones that just poke in my head. And especially through the pandemic, uh, when there were dark times, I just kept hearing Jeremiah, for I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And it just kept hitting me over and over. And a lot of times I play Bible roulette, where I just, I'm like, okay, I'll pray before and I'll be like, okay, what do you have for me? Pop it open. And then sometimes I'm like, I don't think you heard me. I'm going to try it one more time. And it's funny. We lost a dog. It was my mom's dog, but she was my girl. And she got doggy COVID, and she was gone in 48 hours. And it was devastating. And anybody that's ever had an animal, that a service animal that they love like that, it's really, the bond is unlike any other. And I remember feeling so sad, and I came in and I saw my Bible was sitting right by the television, and I was like, look over there, and I was like, it's not going to work. It's nothing. And I flipped it open, and I just kind of put my finger down on a verse, and it was uh even the dogs eat the crumbs from their master's table. Daughter, your prayers are answered. And for me in that moment, it was like all these years of, Bible roulette I've been playing. I was like, okay, you are listening. I know you're listening.
Right, right. Well, it's so funny because, when you told me you did that, I do that, and I didn't think anybody else did that. And so I brought my Bible, and I thought, you know what? Let's play a little Bible emergency roulette and see what the message is for us today. What is it
Let's
going to
do it.
be? We are in Ephesians 3. It says, through him, we both have our access in one spirit to the Father.
Wow.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah. That's amazing.
It's like when you don't know where to go, it's like go to the word. And, that's part of that power we talk about, that power within us that,
Yeah.
if you feel fearful or you feel like, overwhelmed or you feel confused, right? It's like going to the word to be able to just have that direction, bringing that hope and that energy that just allows you to take that one more step or allows you to go like, oh, okay, this is what you were trying to tell me. And that's part of that relationship that we have, and to be able to just look at things in a completely different way. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit because, this is also something we look at is terms of when people have felt disempowered, right? And how we move through some of those things to get to the other side to stand in our power. What is a situation that you felt empowered in, and how did you move through it?
Well, I already talked about being on the witness stand for sure. That was a biggie. Uh, Many times. Well, I have two thoughts come to mind. The first one, it's funny, but the first week of rehearsals for the USO, I was absolutely terrified. I couldn't remember choreography, and I was just I felt like I was in fight or flight the whole time, and I would practice for hours, and I I was a dancer, but I wasn't a dancer, and this was, I was surrounded by, rockettes, and but I learned in my first actually I'll tell one of my favorite stories next, but I learned in performance, though, I may not have the perfect turnout. I may not do something perfect, which I definitely have that overachiever gene where I'm constant, perfectionist, which is a challenge in its own right. But I realized that what I do have is my heart. I have my heart, and that no matter what, that's what I could bring. That I I think I Care Bear stare, like I put my heart in everything with everyone, and I know that that matters because it has always mattered to me, to make sure that everyone knows how special they are and that they're seen, that it is what you spoke of. It's that one-on-one relationship and pouring into the lives of the people around us, that it's not one, you know, like political party. It's not one, uh, we have to have a healthy distrust of every institution. I think that's our job, because that's how, iron sharpens iron. You pour into the things that matter, but care enough to really look at them. And then another time, so that's a small one, but I remember, I was I was in forced visitation, with my biological father, and it was always supposed to be supervised, and it still was, but from afar. And I I do not hate him. I do not think hate is healthy. But when I was a kid, I did not like him. I did not want to be around him, obviously, for very obvious reasons. But the court does what the court does. And we were still in the middle of everything then. And I remember I was trying to get away from him, and he just kept coming closer and closer. And he I didn't want to be near him, and I wouldn't speak to him. And so he took a chunk out of my leg. He pinched it like hard, like grabbed the skin hard, and I was a kid, so that's basically my whole thigh got pinched.
Right.
And I screamed bloody murder, and everyone came running. And he lied and said, "Oh, well, I don't know. She just randomly started doing it." And I just lost it. I climbed on top of a car, pounded with my feet, tore at my hair, and I was screaming at the top of my lungs. And I said, "Get away from me. I said, "I'm Wonder Woman. You're not going to touch me or my mother ever again." And he had to leave. He had to go. And to this day, I feel that power, the refusal to let injustice stand. And I think it feeds through a lot of my life. But I actually hold on to that. I hold on to the power of that, 4-year-old little girl that was not going to let anybody push them around anymore. And I think everybody's got a raging 4-year-old little girl inside of them. We just got to hold on to her.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you and I have talked before about how if you look at the portrayal of any of the superheroes, that they've always come from challenge. And, if you look at what challenges you have and know that you can be the superhero of that you can look at it and go like, that is not going to define me. That's not going to be who I am. I am not going to be silenced. I'm going to be able to, speak my mind and, speak for those who can't speak, and to help people to find their voice so that they can do that. And I think that is such an important thing. which
Yeah.
reminds me, I have kind of a funny question I love to ask my guests. And I think it'll be interesting for you in particular because you did move around quite a bit. You were in foster, you did experience being homeless. And
Mhm.
now, as an adult, having your own home, we have different experiences in our home. We live differently in our bedroom versus our kitchen or our office. So, what now is your favorite room in your home and why?
Oh man, actually, it's the room that I'm in right now, which is like a an office, but the there are two rugs that don't match, but they make me so happy. And my mom had such a problem with it. She's like, they can't, can you just get two that match? And I said, no, I can see the bright colors of this one out of the corner of my eye when I'm at my desk, and it makes me happy. It makes me happy because it's my space, and I think that I think of everyone needs a space, whether it's, and sometimes even in a room, I like to be in a corner in a little cubby. I like small spaces. Which is funny because not a small person. I am tall, but I like to be compact, and I just think that those are all great. I mean, I think it's great. I think it's great that my rugs don't match. I'm just grateful to have a place where rugs can't match, and to be able to say, I don't need my rugs to match. It makes me happy, and that's great.
I love that. I love it so much. Well, I know, Heidi, that people are going to want to stay in contact with you. How can they best do that?
Yes, absolutely. So there's LinkedIn, of course, and Instagram. I am on the Instagram. It's Heidi_Marie Ferren. And then on my website, HeidiMarieFerren.net.
Perfect. And we'll have those in the show notes as well for people to find those more easily. And then, as you know, for this season, our theme is people who are fighting for their freedoms, right? They're standing as freedom freeders. Freeders. Say that three times, right? So, how
Yeah.
is it that you are being a freedom fighter in the world today?
I I am constantly looking for things to fight for, and people to fight for. So whether it's literally pouring into the lives of a stranger, stopping to say, I really love your dress. That is wonderful. The more we can do that for each other, the better, because we're in it together. We are in it to win it, and if we're going to win it, we got to do it together. And then also just looking for organizations to partner with, or train. I do anti-human trafficking advocacy trainings, and I if I have some time, I try to put it where it's going to make a difference. I also work with Sandpipers, which is a great group that helps women and children coming out of domestic abuse situations. And it, it doesn't have to be a lot, but a little can do a lot. Um, and so what is that? All the drops in the ocean, they make an ocean. What is that phrase? It matters.
Right.
Even the small stuff really, really, really matters. And so I try
Absolutely.
to do
Uh,
it all.
Thank you so much. Thank you for just your wisdom. Thank you for being brave. Thank you for everything that you do in helping other people and sharing your story and being vulnerable in that way. Even for just that one listener out there that hears this, that can have hope that they can change that. Just know that you've made that difference.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. You're amazing. Thank you so much for all you do. This
Uh,
show is great.
well, thank you. My pleasure. So, for all of our listeners out there, thank you so much for being here. And until we connect again, live your spotlight. Bye for now. Bye bye.